welcome. We just had a bit of technical issues, so we're just rectifying all of that. Just give us a minute to get more people on. Yeah, we had a bit of technical issues, but we are rectifying it. Hello.
Okay.
So we're just waiting for more people to log in.
Okay.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
Hello, everyone. We are just letting more people come on, so please just bear with us. We had a bit of technical issues, so we're just waiting for more people to be admitted. All right, so we're going to give it another minute or so. Okay. All right. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to the virtual book launch for Holding a Knife's Edge. I am the host for the afternoon. My name is Anne Chisa. I am currently a PhD candidate in agriculture sciences at the University of KwaZulu-Natal in South Africa. I am also the host and the founder of the Root of the Science podcast, which I started to amplify the voices of Africans in STEM globally so that they can talk about their research and their projects in their own voice. And this is when I had the opportunity to meet the two authors of this wonderful book that we're talking about today. And yeah, so we're going to get started. I'd like to welcome all of the participants, especially our authors. I'd like to welcome our guests, the guests meaning in particular all the contributors or the scientists that were featured in this book, and also our panelists. So our panelists are all of the women, the different scientists who will also who got a chance to read this book, Korea, and that we want to get a sense of what people actually thought of this amazing book that was written and took so many minds, so much time and effort. And also we want to hear from the contributors of the book. They were asked to feature what they thought of the book, and also just the broader community, everybody out there who would like give them an opportunity rather to engage with the scientists and the authors. So for the purpose of this interview, for this afternoon, would like everybody's mics to be muted. And also, if you're not part of the panelists, like, you know, your video will be muted. And also, there'll be an opportunity for everybody to ask questions at the end, later on in the show. So do not fear. Even the people who are watching on YouTube, there's somebody who's going to be able to direct all of those questions. So feel free to pop them in the chats so that we can get to them later on. So overall, what's going to happen is that we're going to interact with the authors first to get a sense of what the book is all about. Then we're going to interact with, yes?
There's someone who's talking and at the same time as you.
Please may everybody switch off their mics. I can't see who it is.
Now we can't hear what you're saying because this person is chatting. Mampele, yeah. I think it's Dr. Mampela.
Yeah, there's a bit of feedback. Please may everybody switch off your mic. I'm not able to. Okay, we are back. Okay, so as I was saying, we're going to have an opportunity to first interact with the authors so that we can get a sense of what the book is all about. And then we'll get to interact with some of the contributors of the book. And then we'll get to interact with some of the panelists, the people who actually had a chance to read the book and were gifted the book by the authors. And then later on, that's when we're going to get into the question and answer session where everybody can engage, and you'll have a chance to ask any questions that you wanted to ask during the course of this afternoon. So first things first, I want to take it over to our authors. So I'll give the first question to Dr. Thato. So I want us to first give us an introduction. What is a book all about? And while you're giving that introduction, please may also tell us about the story behind the title of the book.
Hi everyone, and thank you very much for taking time out of your schedule to attend our virtual book launch. I think I speak on behalf of Ivodia and I, and when I say that we're truly humbled by the reception that our book has received thus far. And when we got together to write the book, it was out of conversations that Ivodia and I have had over years. I met Ivodia when I joined Stellenbosch University as a PhD student, and over time we became close. She was my coach at some point, and when we always had a debate on the genesis of this book, but when over time we got to have conversations on her journey as a scientist, because she's way ahead of me in terms of career. She's a chief researcher now, and I wanted to understand what it takes for a person to be, what it takes for a young woman like myself to get to the stage that she's at, and what are some of the advice that she can give me. And my one complaint at the time was that there aren't a lot of Black females in South Africa that are visible to me, that I could actually emulate and learn from and interact with. That was the most important thing for me, interact with, so that we can learn, so that I could learn. I learned from their mistakes, learn from their successes, and how to be as successful as they are in my career. So we debated, and she said that she still thinks that we got a very large visibility, but we sat down and she said, okay, fine, if you can come up with a list of females that you would like to interact with, but you don't have access to, then you and I should actually put this into a book and write a book, because maybe this question that you have is a question that's, or this complaint that you have is something that's shared by other young women like you. And just to make sure we, the scientists that we are, we sat down with a group of other young females in science, and we had a chat about what questions they would ask their role models in science on their career journeys. Some have families, how do they do the work-life balance, and what lessons can they share with up-and-coming scientists. So that was the basis of those questions that we generated in that session, was the basis of the questions that we posed to some of the awesome women we featured in our book. And when it was time to put together the book, we chose a title that really stems from our shared, our common language. I speak Setswana, Gloria speaks Sepedi. And in our language, we have the same that loosely translates to woman holds the sharp end of a knife. In our language, it's and that saying is powerful in the sense that we as women raise families, at the same time building careers and a legacy for our children. And it is paying homage to the journeys that we travel as women. And we thought that it would be an appropriate title for this book that chronicles the journeys of awesome women in science.
Oh, thank you so much for that backstory, Tato. It's really good to see the genesis in terms of how it all started. You spoke in your introduction that you've been writing this book for a long time, for about 2 years. And obviously this shows the amount of time and dedication that you both put into this. So I just wanted to, I can assume that it wasn't an easy road. So Dr. Vodia, if you could come in and just touch on what are some of the challenges that, if any, that you may have faced during this process of putting this wonderful book together.
Yes, so obviously we have our full commitment. So as Tato said, I'm a chief researcher, so I'm very much involved in supervision of postgraduate students, and I'm teaching as well. And Tato was busy with her PhD. So the biggest challenge we had was first time management, because we had to balance our normal day-to-day activities with writing the book. So the initial decision that we made was to make sure that this doesn't interfere at all with our day-to-day activities. So we had to commit to not having weekends. So on weekends, when people go and meet families and friends and have a meal or drinks, we were sitting around working on the book. And the second challenge that we had is, when we started to conceptualize what this book should look like, we had a long list of female scientists in different categories. Those who are published scientists, published in the sense of writing books and not necessarily publishing within their field. Those who have diverged from being in the lab to a different career stream completely, be it in business, running their own businesses, and then versus those that have stayed in academic institutions or who are working in research institutes. And this list went from 20-25 people, and became less and less, because reaching out to people and asking them to share their story was not so easy. Some people were willing, and that's how we ended up with the 14 amazing women that we had. And some people would say they are willing, but in the end pull out because they had other visions and dreams that they wanted to pursue and didn't want to be part of the book. So ending up with a list that was still in line with our vision for the book wasn't that easy, to still make sure that the book captures diverse careers in science and in research and so on. So that was part of the challenge. And of course, there were times when, I was traveling. So really, this virtual life is really at the core of this book, because I think this book was pretty much put together virtually, because we were sharing documents, working on documents while I was on one continent and Tato would be on another continent. So just keeping ourselves and keeping each other accountable and making sure that we made it to the end of this was quite critical. And then, of course, the finances required to actually make this book happen. When we started, the first thing that we researched was how much it would cost to actually publish a book. And we looked at each other and we said, we can't afford this. But we didn't let that deter us. So we still went on. I think we just thought at some point we'll figure out how to get the money for the book. And then, of course, we did. And we had to learn a lot of skills in terms of fundraising, in terms of reaching out to different companies for support or sponsorship and so on. So yeah, those were some of the challenges that I think we made it work.
Yeah, I can imagine the challenges must have been many, but congratulations to you both. We are here because you overcame those challenges and you managed to make it work. So congratulations. I'm just going to move on a little bit now because of time constraints. In this book, you have managed to package around, I think, 14 scientists, and you also managed to rope in another incredible scientist who is Dr. Mamphela Ramapela, who wrote the foreword for this book, which I absolutely loved. I'm going to just read a little snippet of the first couple of lines that she said. And she wrote, I count myself blessed as a woman living in the future that we could only dream as young student activists and professionals living in the 70s, seeing young Black women scientists accomplishing their academic goals and fired up to tell their own stories. Just that part literally just gave me goosebumps, and I think it set the tone to the story of this book. And Dr. Ramapela, I'd love to bring you in here if you can hear me. I wanted to ask you that when you received the request to write this forward from people who you didn't know about a book that you hadn't read, what made you want to agree to actually do this?
Sorry, I'm in a taxi and there is very bad connectivity, but I just want to say there was no way I could not do this forward, because nothing pleased me more than see two young women absolutely determined to make sure that they not only tell their story by reading this book, give voice to so many stories of young people, young Black women who have done an amazing, incredible, amazing jobs wherever they were. All of them just were bundu bashers, opening a path where it didn't exist. And tough as things were, they pushed through. That is what I believe is the blessing of this beautiful continent, which has got these powerful women who, once they raise their voice, you hear that they are, in fact, continuing to give life, to give meaning, and to celebrate life. So that's what made me do this. And I'll do it all over again for any group of young people who want to do this work of telling our stories.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. And you're absolutely right. This book just showcased I think for all of us who've had the chance to read it, that anything is possible, especially as a Black woman, as a young Black woman. And Dr. Ramphela, just before you go, one more question. Now that you read the book yourself, what do you think of the book? What are you, what are your perceptions in terms of what you thought now that you got to see the book in person?
What the book does is to successfully tell stories in a very creative way. I love the fact that they've used cartoon-like figures to show these beautiful women and what they were doing. It makes the book readable, it makes it fun, and it gives some kind of animation to the stories that would just come alive from page to page. It is also a book that's easy to read because once you've started reading the first story, you want to hear the next story. You want to hear the end of that story. It is a compelling narrative of power and the power to be and to define oneself, whatever the difficulties.
Yeah, definitely. And, we keep talking about this book, and apologies, my mic was muted. I was saying that we keep talking, you're absolutely right, Dr. Ramapela. The stories were definitely a page turner and you couldn't stop. I also loved the cartoon features as well. In particular, my younger sister loved it and she's 10 years old, so that resonated really well. We keep speaking about the many wonderful scientists that are featured in this book. And I just want to bring in some of them. I'm just checking if they are here, the ones who I want to pose some of the questions to. Hold on. Apologies. Sorry, while I do that, I'm gonna ask who's here? Sure. Sorry. All right. So we had some really good authors. I don't know if Professor Refilwe is here. I had a question for her. Is she here? No, okay. Then we're gonna move along to, okay. Trying to find. I see Prof. Salome is here, so I'm going to pose the question to her. In this book, when we read it, we can tell that many of the scientists are, they have so many accolades and so many recognitions, I just wanted to ask you, do they think, beyond the awards and the events, what can be done to create opportunities for young people who are going to read this book to kind of have access to role models and mentors like yourselves from this book?
Thank you very much. And just to say, it's been such an honor to be part of this book, and also just the recognition, being one of the people who are being celebrated in this book is such a huge recognition. So I want to thank the authors and all of you. I think what you're saying, and I think that's what the book does as well. It demystifies the scientist or the woman scientist, and it takes the real life stories about us, how we grew up, the real challenges that we face, demystifies the whole thing, that it makes us, it shows everyone that it's possible. We are real behind the awards. We all just normal women, mothers, sisters, daughters, all of that. And so, and I think opportunities like this are also creating that opportunity to say we are there and we are available, and mentorship, and providing opportunities for people to, many of us are passionate about seeing the next generation of women as well, of women scientists. And many of us are already engaged in various programs through whatever channels. And so I would encourage people to reach out to us. Some of us are easy to find through social media, but I think there are many platforms in which you could find people, and it's just a matter of each person will relate to a different scientist, so it might be somebody from a different field. But I think we are here, and we want to be part of helping the next generation, and we want to support each other as well as peers. So I think that would be my message.
Thank you so much for that. And you're right that it kind of did demystify. We kind of see you all with all of the awards, and we're like, wow. But then when you read this book, you kind of get to see the human element behind all of these very incredible women, and you kind of get to relate that, hey, they actually went through something, and even though I'm going through something, it's not a train smash. I can also get there. So thank you so much for contributing to this book. Another aspect that I loved that this book showed was that it showed scientists who were able to combine science and entrepreneurship. In particular, we had Prof. Motaung, who is an academic and also a CEO of Global Health Biotech. We had Prof. Masinde, who I'm seeing here. If you could please join us, because the next question is for you, who's also a CEO, and she developed her own app. And then there's a number. So I just wanted to pose this question that, as scientists who have managed to integrate science, social innovation, and entrepreneurship, this is really great, but the foundations of this, especially entrepreneurship, are not taught at school or even university levels. So, Prof, what do you hope people will take away from reading about your journey where you ventured into entrepreneurship after they've read this book? This is to Prof. Masinde, if she can hear me. Or okay, we're gonna come back to that one. We're gonna come back to that one then. I'm gonna try to improvise. Also, then I'm gonna bring into somebody who I can see right now, Zakiti, who is one of the panelists. You've had the chance to read this book. You're also a PhD candidate. I wanted to ask you, with some of the stories that you read, who did you relate to, and which ones kind of stuck out with your own journey of where you are?
Hi, Anne, and hi to the authors. I also feel extremely honored to be one of the people who were actually gifted this book. I really, really enjoyed reading it, and you're putting me in a difficult position by asking me to choose. It's so difficult to choose because each of the stories that I've read, they've been parts that I have resonated with, and it's very difficult for me to choose one. Like I said, there were a couple, but since I'm being kind of forced to choose one, I would say it was actually the last one, which was, I'm sorry, I don't know if it's Dr. or Professor Paswana Mafuya Arifilwe. I really resonated with her story the most because she is an epidemiologist and was also working in epidemiology of HIV, which is a field that I focus my PhD research on. So really her story, I wouldn't say it was my favorite because like I said, I really enjoyed all of the stories and each of the women kind of brought something unique, which is something I really enjoyed about the book, is that each of the women had something unique to add to the story, whether it's the story of the previous one or the next one. So yeah, that's what I can say for that question. Looks like Anne is gone.
Let's go.
Thanks, Akiti. I think we lost Anne there, so I'm going to take over the reins for a bit until she comes back. This question goes to Mobile. And Mobile is a high school learner who is studying some of the science subjects and has also had an opportunity to read the book. So Mobile, from a young high school learner that read the book, how did you find this book from your engagement with the book? And what is it that you like about the book, or which stories did you find more exciting and or were of interest to you, especially linking to your science subjects?
I loved the book very much. What I really loved was the format. It was really easy for me to read in as I'm a high school student. And the illustrations as well. It captured the characteristics of the scientists and the professors very nicely, and it related very well. And the stories that I really loved that related with the subjects that I'm interested in like science, was the one of Dr. Nomusa Dlamini and Dr. Shori Mataung, because both of them decided to go back to traditional ways and made references to herbal remedies, which is a role that the modern society has kind of forgotten in a way. And I was happy that they could find the science in that and relate it back to their technology and stuff like that. So those were the stories that I liked the most.
Okay, so have you shared the book with any of your friends? How did they receive the book?
I shared the book with my family. And they love the book, especially my parents, because they are part of the STEM community. So my mom loved seeing strong Black scientists and the success that they have achieved. And I also loved the stories of the Black scientists and the struggles that they had to go through. Being a female in this industry was beautiful in a way, to show how strong they are and how much courage they had and how much self-trust they had to get through it and to be successful at the end.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, sorry everyone, had a little bit of connection issues, but that's amazing that you were able to connect
with the book, and share it with your family members. I just have a last follow-up question for you. The book has, I don't know if it's been asked, but the book has these really amazing features just before the bibliography where it talks about, it breaks down the word STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and it talks about these different careers. For somebody who is about to start your academic journey, and maybe aspire into STEM, do you think that was very helpful for you?
Yes, it was, but I didn't take much look into it as I focused very much on the stories, but it was very helpful for me. And especially with the way it did it, and the format of it was very, very helpful. But then at the same time, I did read the stories more than looking at the first part of the book.
Oh, all right. That is absolutely fantastic, and thank you so much for contributing on this journey. And I wish you all the best in your career.
Thank you very much.
Sorry.
To Nomusa, Patience, and perhaps Nolwazi, Nobile referred to the fact that you have been able to connect traditional or cultural and indigenous knowledge to industry production and to products that are actually now usable to us as people. And so I would like to ask this question to you as scientists who are working in industry. What do you think are the opportunities for young people outside of academia? So in industries like where you are at CSIR and so on, what do you think are the opportunities, and what are the current gaps, in the different fields in terms of opening up opportunities for young people to explore?
Okay, thank you. I'm honored to be part of this panel. Thank you, Nobile, for that praise. There are vast opportunities. Being a scientist and also being interested in indigenous knowledge systems, because there is a lot of science there that is still largely unexplored. For me, there are vast opportunities because we have product development, we have also scientific evaluation that can go on. So as young people looking to study further, there is opportunity to do masters, PhDs, and also to commercialize some of these products, because some of them are being commercialized, but they're not scientifically tested. So for me, the opportunities is in doing value-added products, innovating with our indigenous knowledge, especially our plants, and just having that knowledge alone and putting science behind it and having products, having the opportunity to commercialize and expanding our knowledge base. Our people have the knowledge, but sometimes it's just the packaging that we need to do, and also conforming to the regulatory requirements, because we know there are regulations. You just can't put a medicine at a pharmacy and claim that it's doing A, B, C, D. You have to prove, even with food products. Yeah, I don't know if I've addressed those questions. So for me, there are opportunities in terms of studying further, doing research, and in terms of commercializing, doing value-added products, and developing new industries.
Thank you. So you referred to commercializing some of the products derived from the indigenous knowledge systems. And so I will go back here to Professor Masinde, if she is here, and also Professor Netandama, if she's also in. to ask the question that when it comes to commercialization, when it comes to entrepreneurship, as Anne asked earlier, these are not skills or knowledge that is integrated into the common academic streams in terms of teaching at universities or at colleges. So how do we integrate entrepreneurship? How do we integrate innovation and merge that or marry that with indigenous knowledge systems to illuminate the importance and the relevance of indigenous knowledge systems? Prof. Nthandama?
Yes, thanks. First, let me congratulate you, ladies. You've done it. Yay!
Thank you, thank you.
And to the fellow contributors, thank you very much. For me, the key issue is exactly what you are asking. It was important for me to also share the significance of, collaborating with our communities and making sure that we conduct research in a respectful way, making sure that our students are aware of the wrongs and the good, of course, the wrongs that can come out of doing research in a disrespectful way and ending up extracting knowledge without acknowledging it and sort of repeating the history of stealing and beneficiating for our own sake and not cognizant of the fact that, it's co-production and co-learning process. So I'm very passionate about making sure that that happens, the respect happens. And for this book, I also liked a lot the fact that the little story that is told should not discourage the kind of students that are on the margin, you know what I mean? So that they can find their space within the collaborative team of researchers. And they should understand that being there will actually empower them to be whoever they are later in life. Some paths are not straight. They will take longer than others. Thank you.
Thank you. So I will take this also to Prof. Masinde. I think she is in the audience. And she is also somebody who has managed to marry indigenous knowledge and work, as Prof. Nthandama was saying, in a respectful manner when it comes to knowledge exchange, knowledge sharing with the community. So Prof. Masinde, you have taken this further as well and have managed to create products that are commercial, that are valuable to farmers and so on. How has this experience shaped your choice in terms of research focus areas and how you guide your students, and how do you think going forward we can learn from your journey?
Thank you very much for the opportunity. And I would like to start by congratulating you ladies. I'm so proud of your achievement. I remember when we spoke, it was almost 18 months ago, and here you are. So I'll join fellow ladies and say congratulations and very well done. Yes, you're right. The use of local knowledge, indigenous knowledge, apart from being authentic to the research we're doing, when you move to business, it gives you a competitive edge. Just yesterday, I was discussing with one of my PhD students, and we're saying that people try to copy us, people try to chase us, But the moment you talk about indigenous knowledge, you become very competitive if you're doing business. So that's what we've used in the story I've told in the book. We've used the fact that the indigenous knowledge will always be unique to us, to me, to my mother, to my auntie, to stay on the competitive edge. In terms of helping young students, we have passed on the same message to them. In fact, one of them, she's called Mpo, she managed to get funding into the tune of 300,000 Rand because she's using this indigenous knowledge, but for pollution monitoring. Today, we are mentoring another young girl who is now starting her master's. She's looking at how we can use indigenous knowledge to document biodiversity degradation. So you can use it anywhere, mention it, and it will work for us. And it's very easy to publish. Like Mpong got a distinction for our masters. Every time we submit publications, people get amazed. So it's a very, very rich area for anyone who wants to do research. And you can use it in whatever dimension you are in. Thank you, and all the best, ladies.
Thank you.
Prof. Masinde, before you go, I have a follow-up question. I'm back. I wanted to ask you, you developed, I think I asked the question earlier on about how you were able to marry your science and the whole entrepreneurship. So most of us who go through the schooling system or the university system, that doesn't really happen. So, you speak about that in the book. Now, I just want to ask you, for people who've read this book, what takeaways do you think they can take from listening to how you did what you did?
Okay, first, I think the idea of entrepreneurship came to be because when you develop solutions as scientists and we go give to our people, if we do not show them or leave it to them in a way that it can sustain itself, we end up with what we call white elephants, project everywhere in the country, and they can't sustain themselves. And if you ask them to pay, even if it's 1 Rand or 50 cents, they will see the value of it as opposed to giving to them for free. So when we do our research, we should not start at the point where we have the product. We should think about the third step of entrepreneurship. And to me, that ensures sustainability of the innovations that we come up with. I hope I answered you. Sorry, I had technical challenges earlier. That's why I didn't connect. Thank you. Back to you. Can you hear me?
I don't know if it was just on my end, but did everybody catch that? There was a little bit of a delay. Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Sorry? Hello? Oh, I thought somebody's speaking.
And we don't hear you.
You can't hear me. Oh, you can hear me. Okay, great. It's almost time. Okay. So this one though, this one I would like to pose to anyone who would like to answer. This is for all of the scientists. When I was reading this book, I saw that many of you are mothers and you are wives, and but at the same time you are doing all of these amazing things. Some of you spoke about how there were sacrifices that you had to take in order to pursue all of these, all of these achievements. So for a young female scientist like myself, who is 26 and reading this and is on the journey of wanting to pursue my academic career, I just wanted to ask you, what advice, I'm going to direct it to maybe to, what advice rather would you give to us about that balance act in that? I don't know who would like to take it, because everybody fits the bill.
I don't know if I can just come in. This is Nolwazi Mkhize. This was really, I would like to start to say this has been a very exciting moment for me, and really would like to still congratulate the authors, for having this thought, for bringing, such a very rich book. I work for a global company, which is Corteva Agrisciences, and the way the company has taken this book is at another level. I can tell you now that every employee, have ordered the book. They have, taken a picture and sent it to me to show support behind it. So why I'm mentioning that, I want, for the authors to be proud of what they have done, because I see that this is in South Africa, but I also see it as a region, Africa, Middle East, I see it as going big, and I see a lot of partnership within the scientists that are actually featured in this book. Especially, myself working as a, working in a global company, that there are a lot of collaboration partnerships that we can form to encourage, young women out there. And myself as I would still call myself young. I wouldn't say old lady, but I'll say still young lady as a mother. It was not an easy journey because you need to, try and balance the two. But I think at the end, as a mother, you want to be a role model, because they say charity begins at home. So you need to set a good, standard for your kids. So whenever you are having two thoughts about things, you are saying, what will it bring to them at the end? How will they look at you, at the end, and how can they learn from what you have done in order to change their lives? So for me, it was a challenge, situation, but I had to look at the bigger picture, not just for now. Because in order for you to get a good job, you need to have been educated. In order for you to take them to good schools, you need to get enough money to take them to those good schools. So I needed to think about all of those things and push regardless of the challenges that one face, but look at the bigger picture. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. I can see that Dr. Mampele, you have your hand up. Would you like to come in?
Yes, I just want to emphasize the importance of reverence for our heritage and this beautiful work that's been done to bring indigenous knowledge into the biomedical sciences that, by the way, were started by us. Because remember, you cannot mummify a body unless you understand the science of the human body. But what I do want us to do is never to allow ourselves to call that science, this biomedical science, Western science. It's ours. Second point I want to make is the beauty of our African languages. And those scientists, my beautiful daughters who are documenting and authenticating indigenous knowledge, please showcase the beauty of the language by making sure that those African names are there. And finally, let us not take this wisdom, particularly people of my age, to the grave. Our children need to learn this from grade R all the way to university and not cut or do shortcuts. Let's please make sure that indigenous African languages and knowledge are integrated in high quality 21st century education for our children.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Those that's really some valid points that, you know, so many of you have so much wisdom, and it's important that it gets passed down accordingly. So now, as promised earlier on, I said that would open the floor to some questions, because I'm sure that's why many of you wanted to come and interact with some of your favorite scientists. So then I'm going to hand it over to Tato, who's been keeping track of those questions.
So, and the first question here, well, it's not Tato that's speaking, by the way.
I think you can see.
The first question is actually directed to us, and it's from Engele Budenaka. And it's just asking, she says she hasn't read the book, so she just wanted to know who are the scientists featured in the book. So Engele, just to name a few, we have Professors Knox Mapunda, Mutoni Masinde, Tebelo Nyokong, Bonani Natandama, Refilo Pasona Mafuya, Kulebukile Mutau, Mansai Diale. We have Mamuketi Pakeng, Moza Doba. Then we have doctors Nolwazi Mkize, Nomusa Dlamini, Patient Mtunzi Kufa, and lastly, who am I forgetting?
Wow.
I tried to name one of them.
I mean, yeah. I know we're forgetting the one.
Oh, Ratela Mapanda. There we go. That's the list of people in the book.
Thank you. That's a very long list. It's an incredible list. So, and I'm glad that you're able to say it off the top of your head. Can you please let us know another question?
There are no questions from the Zoom platform from my side. So, but if anyone has a question that they would like to ask directly, you can mute your mic or raise your hand so that we can see.
Are there questions? Well, I have a question as well, if you don't mind, while we're waiting for others to come up. Again, it's directed to you. I know somebody touched on it, that the book has these very colorful, colorful illustrations in it. What made you go to that route instead of maybe having normal pictures like what you would typically expect in a book?
So the reason why, so firstly, when we were still conceptualizing the book, the idea of having illustrations in the book was an idea that I expressed to Tato from the beginning. And this is because our vision with this book was it should be a book for the whole family. And we know that young people, at primary school, high school, young people nowadays get distracted quite easily and they can lose interest. So we didn't want to just have a black and white ordinary book, but to have a book that captures one's interest so that even a little child can see the images and want to spark a conversation with the parent or sister or brother to say, but I can see these beautiful images. What is the story about? So we wanted to have something that would inspire people to converse within the family about the book and what the messages in the book are.
Can I go with you?
Zakiti, you have a question?
Yes, I do. Thank you. I just wanted to say, as a young Black female who's also in a STEM field and really coming up and looks to people, you know, the people that you have profiled in the books. So, you know, I always say it's very difficult to see something, to dream something you cannot see. So now, not only have I seen these amazing Black women, but I also know their stories. And I just wanted to ask, then that leads me to my question is, are you planning on having a sequel for the book? Because I feel like this was just a drop in the ocean.
So just repeat the last part of your question, Zakiti.
Oh, I was saying that, are you planning on having a sequel for the book?
I'll let Tato answer.
When we wrote the book, I think we wrote the book with not just a sequel in mind, but several sequels, because we did realize that the 14 women we profiled it didn't even scratch the surface, really, of the talent and the depth of work that we do on the continent. We started off in South Africa, but we definitely want to expand our project to cover the continent. We want to expand the project to cover young children. This book hits a little bit above the primary school kids, and having a chat with Dr. Professor Makunga, she actually said something very profound where she said that to get a child interested in science, sometimes most of the time you have to get them in primary school. So we want to adapt the stories in our book and books to target the primary school child. So there are definite plans in the pipeline to do many, many more stories to reach all children, all young people of all ages.
That's awesome. Thank you.
We can't wait for part 2 of the book. I saw that somebody also asked the same question as Zakiti, so no pressure. No pressure on that. No pressure. I'm trying to see if there's anybody else. Oh, okay. I have another question. I've had friends who are overseas, for example, who are interested in this book. How can people get hold of this wonderful book, and how can they get a chance to read it? Is it only in hardcover, or is it in soft cover as well?
And we missed your question there.
Can you hear me now?
Oh my word, we've been kicked out.
No, you are in.
No, you are in. You're in. You're in. You're in.
Okay, well, I'm just reading. I'm going to read some of the comments that are just coming from the chats, that this book is such an inspiration. And I think everybody can comment that, you know, the ones who've had the pleasure of reading it, that every single time that you turned a page, you were inspired and you were motivated that anything and everything is possible. So I truly hope that the vision of getting this book, especially into primary schools, for example, gets happens, because I think growing up, we didn't have the representation, especially of women, of scientists that look like us, that sound like us. So it would be really, really great. Can you hear us now?
There's a question from Dumiteko.
Okay.
Thank you very much, and greetings to everybody. I am so inspired. I'm actually quite disappointed by the fact that I'm seeing very few men on this call. I'm wondering why that is the case, but I'll also take a bit of accountability there, that I could have done more to invite more men to actually be part of this. I am just so inspired, Tabi, by what you have done with your co-author. I am so proud of what you have achieved and how far you have come. And I am just in so much awe of you. Obviously, you are in formidable company, and it is from that kind of company that you have actually also been somehow inspired and knew that, you know, you could believe in yourself to actually get to this stage. And I congratulate you and your co-author. And I have not yet read the book. I do recall ordering it, but maybe I didn't, and I just need to make sure. But I'm definitely getting one for my daughter, and I'll be getting a few for a few other girls that I know can benefit from this. What is most important for me about this book, coming from, you know, both of us having studied Ko Khaiso High School, which I still go back from time to time and give talks to the kids there. I have not been there in about 2 years, so I am due for a visit there. But, you know, it just gives me another additional person that I'm going to show a picture of and tell, you know, this amazing story about, but in a way that I can say to them that imagine that this person was sitting in the desk that you are sitting in today. So you are actually helping to make my work that I like to do at the school so much easier, and it'll be easier to inspire those kids. And they will now be able to believe that they are actually part of a great heritage, because they are, you know, that they are studying at a school that, one, has a lot of great heritage, but they realize the potential in them. They are already part of that heritage. It's just up to them, the choices that they make. And they can really, truly believe in earnest that they are also you know, and they can believe this about themselves. So thank you, congratulations. Very proud of you. I cannot wait one day that I can also sit with you and share a glass of wine, and you can teach me a lot more about that as well. I have a lot to learn still. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, much appreciated. And
yes, definitely. Thank you. Thank you so much. I just wanted to ask, are there any further questions before we might wrap it up?
I have a question/comment. So my question is directed to all the people who are interested or work with Indigenous knowledge and Indigenous crops. So a few years ago when I was doing my master's, a person who was working with sweet potatoes said that they had embarked on a very aggressive marketing campaign to get people into, into that crop. So I wanted to know if, should we maybe not be doing more to market Indigenous crops, whether they serve a medicinal purpose or there are food security related crops? Is there not more that we can be doing? And if there is, what is that more?
I can try to answer that one. Thank you for the question. If we say, should we be doing more? Yes, definitely. There are some indigenous crops which we know are very nutritious, but if you walk into Pick n Pay or walk into any supermarket, you won't come across it. So what should we be doing? Like I know, for example, we all need protein and we all buy meat, we buy beans, but there are some indigenous legumes like bambara nuts or jugo beans or cowpea or indumba that are still not sufficiently produced. So what is lacking in some cases is the production. How do we increase production? Research on identifying improved genetic varieties that will produce more, or even developing cultivation practices. And the list can go on. We can start simple with food, because food is our medicine, and then go to medicinal plants, or we go even to indigenous herbs that are still harvested from the wild. So yeah, thank you for that.
And just one more comment. I have to say your work really excites me because I do a lot of work outside of the country in the rest of Africa, and they really, really, really drive their indigenous crops. And when I compare maybe a crop like sorghum that's found in SA, that's indigenous to SA and other African countries, you'll find that our production, when you compare it to the amount of land we have available, is really, really lagging compared to what is observed in the other countries. So it's really encouraging to see that we are active in the indigenous space as well.
Yeah. Yeah, as you are saying, South Africa, I don't want to say South Africa only, we sort of lead the world, well, Africa in terms of adoption of technologies. But when it comes to our own indigenous crops and space, if you look at the list of the production, we still lag behind, you're right. But in terms of sorghum, we still have to import, even though we have industries that are processing sorghum. And the list can go on, yeah. Thank you for that, Aviwe. Yeah, it would be interesting to be in touch and yeah, exchange notes and to have such a young person with such a view. Thank you.
Okay, definitely.
Okay.
Hi, and we have two questions from the YouTube channel. And the first question is from Sandra Poma. I think it's directed to us. She asks, the book should be in local stores. Do we have any plans to make it more accessible? Sandra, yes, we do have plans to make it more accessible. We are a two-man team for now, so we're trying to get the ball rolling as quickly as possible. But for now, the book is available definitely on online platforms, Amazon and publisher.co.za. What we also hope for really with this platform is to make it accessible to children in school libraries. And for this dream of ours to happen, we need partnerships with people, local businesses, different funders to help us get the book in school libraries across the country, because we feel that for the book to have the kind of impact we dream for it to be, it has to be accessible not only to those people who can buy it or walk into an exclusive bookstores or buy it from publisher.co.za. It needs to be accessible in school libraries. So everyone here, the companies out there, join us, walk with us, and let's get this book to young people across the country. The second question is from Nabisa Mefumakulu. Thank you, Nabisa, for joining. And she asks to the scientists in the meeting, did you have mentors in building your career? And did the mentorship work for your career, or did you have to navigate most of the things on your own? So I think this I can ask to any of the scientists sitting in the room. Dr. E, you can start it off.
Well, Nabisa, I think I started my career before, for instance, NRF, the National Research Foundation, before it started a drive of mentorship programs. So I started my career without a mentor. I obviously had role models. One of my co-supervisors, Professor Babel Han-Hagedal, who was my unofficial co-supervisor when I was on an exchange program between South Africa and Sweden, was one woman that I looked up to in terms of building a career in science and the way she approached her leadership and supervision of students. But I never had a specific person that, for me, I labeled as a mentor. I learned just from looking at people, so it was never a formal mentorship, but just learning from picking, various aspects from different people that I felt worked for me and that I could integrate into my career. Knox, you perhaps want to say something on this?
Hi, I don't know if my reception is good enough. I'm going to try and see if I can put on video as well. And if something funky goes wrong, then please let me know. The idea of mentors when I was busy doing my PhD, they were not so easily accessible, especially Black women. And I think it's post PhD that I actually realized that it would have been great to have had somebody that looked like me and who might have had similar experiences to me, somehow hold my hand and even be able to just have a conversation with once in a while. At the moment, I'm involved in Stellenbosch University's mentorship program for young staff members. And this has highlighted to me the great value of having a relationship with a mentor. And it's actually a two-way street. I think often people have this idea that you have a mentor and they sort of tell you what to do. And it's not necessarily like that, because both parties actually are able to learn from each other. So that's been a wonderful experience to be somebody else's mentor. And I do wish that I'd had someone else when I was in the process of doing my PhD that could mentor me. I think I'm in a bit of an unusual position in that my father actually happened to have been a botanist, and I happen to have grown up in a family where there are other persons that actually hold higher degrees. And I even have a cousin that had a PhD in psychology, and she continues to do research. So those very close role models actually inculcated this idea that one can actually do science, but this is not the story of every Black South African woman.
Thanks, Nox. Bonani, you want to say something on this?
Yes, I want to perhaps also bring the story of a rural Black girl, and to just say, girls out there, you will pick your mentors on the way. It's not yet Uhuru. And so if you're going to have to wait for formalized structures for mentorship, that may not happen. And so find them, knock the door and make the first contact, because it's so important that there is at least one person or you look up to and you can go and talk to. I see in my programs most of the time, I wish there were many of us older women who can get out there and make formalized systems, even if it's not NRF funded or supported, to help the young girls, because then they can see themselves in us. And so I'm just going to say that, like everyone is saying, during our time, that those were luxuries that we did not necessarily have, but we looked up to certain individuals, Black or white, for that thing that kept us going, and relatability, and someone that you could talk to about your frustrations, and it helps. So young girls, young women out there, talk to us, talk to other women, and don't isolate or feel like, there are no possibilities. That's all I would say to encourage that relatability. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much for that, for that topic. Yes, yes, I do. I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank everybody who's here. It's been a really great afternoon to interact with so many wonderful people. It's been a pleasure hosting you, even though we had some technical difficulties. But before I go, I also just, before we close off completely, I want to give you the opportunity for any final words from our authors quickly, so that we can wrap it up.
Well, firstly, like I had said in my introductory comments, I would like to thank each and every one of you for taking time out of your afternoons and spending this 1.5 hours with us, and really launching our book off in such a beautiful way. I'd like to thank the women who agreed to share their stories with us and inspire the next generation and many generations after this with their life stories, and provide mentors and lighthouses for young women who may not, even young men who may not necessarily have easy access to them. I want to thank our host today, and thank you. You have walked this journey with us when we first met on social media, and we were like, hello, during the funding stages of our project, we need a platform. You were willing to share your platform with us and host an awesome podcast that shines the light, does a very good job of doing exactly what we are doing here today, shining the light on different African scientists and different fields of science, technology, engineering, and maths. And her platform is really amazing. I would encourage all of you to go listen to Root of the Science podcast and just see how much great work we're doing on the continent, and not only Africans on the continent, but Africans in the diaspora. What we would like to do, as I had mentioned, is get this book to as many young people as possible. So let's hold hands and let us campaign to make sure that every school library, every municipal library has a copy of this book, so that the next generation of scientists can be inspired to see that science is not for clever people. There's this misconception that science is for clever people, and it's not. It's for you, me, it's for everyone. And we need to get more young people believing in that for the innovation that we so desperately need in Africa to happen. So thank you to each and every one of you for being here. For those who have not read the book, we look forward to engaging with you once you've read it, and we're hearing the stories that you guys have, which stories connected with you the most. But thank you, and thank you.
Indeed, it's been a great. Would you like to say something, Vodia, before we wrap up, or are you good? Right. Yeah, thank you, everybody.
Yeah. You know, I have to say that this has been an amazing journey. And, you know, it wasn't easy, but it was quite a learning journey for us. And I think working with Tato was really a very good partnership. She's the tech person. I'm the person who calms the system down. You know, when she gets excited, she goes there, and then I have to say, I stay in the middle, and I have to say, I know Planet Earth is still here. So I'm the voice of reason. She's the one who gets excited and runs around, and somehow we meet in the middle. And I think it's a partnership that has worked very well, and will continue to work, I think. And, you know, just to say, we will soon launch our website, Path to Science, which will take these stories forward in many different ways. So by the time we get to the next version of the kids' book and to the sequel to this book, we will have already been capturing quite a few stories on our website. And, you know, as soon as it's ready to launch, we will again invite all the people who have supported us to have a look at the website and to use it as a tool for young people out there. So thank you, and thank you so much, Anne, for the support that you have shown us throughout this journey. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much both to our co-authors, and like you said, for the next steps, the website for launching, you know, into other different ways. We wish you all of the best, and we can't wait for book 2. And as so many people mentioned on the comments, that we can't wait until we can possibly have a live book launch. So it'll be really great for everybody to connect. But you know, the time is up. And once again, thank you for allowing me to have this opportunity. I'm truly honored to be the host of this very wonderful event and to interact with so many wonderful women. It's been a pleasure and a great honor. And with that being said, I wish you all a really good afternoon, and please get your hands on this book. Thank you so much. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.